Did you know that a statistically improbable number of people claim to have seen a ghost? Like, a lot of people. More than you'd think, which either means ghosts are real or a concerning percentage of the population is hallucinating. Either way, it's pretty spooky, right? We're diving headfirst into the shadowy realm of the paranormal. So buckle up, Buttercup, because things are about to get weird. We're talking full-on haunted hotspots, places where the echoes of the past cling to the present, places where the air crackles with an unseen energy. So if you're brave enough, join us as we explore 10 of the most haunted places on Earth. Places you should probably never visit unless you're really into the idea of potentially being possessed. Don't say I didn't warn you. We're not responsible for any sudden urges to speak Latin, levitate, or develop a sudden craving for ectoplasm. You've been warned. First up on our paranormal parade is the Winchester Mystery House, a sprawling mansion in San Jose, California. Built by Sarah Winchester, heiress to the Winchester rifle fortune, this house is a bizarre architectural puzzle, with staircases that lead to nowhere, doors that open onto walls, and windows that look into other rooms. After the deaths of her husband and daughter, she consulted a medium who told her she was cursed by spirits. The solution? Continuous construction to confuse the spirits. For 38 years, construction continued non-stop. The result is a 160-room mansion filled with oddities. Visitors report paranormal activity, from disembodied voices to doors slamming shut on their own. Some even claim to have seen Sarah Winchester herself, still wandering the halls. All right, buckle up, Buttercups, because our next stop is not for the faint of heart. We're heading to New Orleans, Louisiana, to the infamous LaLaurie House, a place steeped in history and horror. This isn't your typical haunted house with creaky floors and flickering lights. This is a place where unspeakable atrocities were committed. Madame Delphine LaLaurie, a prominent socialite, harbored a dark and twisted secret. Behind her elegant walls, Delphine tortured and murdered her slaves. In 1834, a fire broke out, revealing a hidden chamber of horrors. The scene was so gruesome it sparked a riot, forcing Delphine to flee. The LaLaurie House remains one of the most haunted locations in New Orleans. Visitors report hearing screams and feeling an overwhelming sense of dread. So, picture this. A creepy, overgrown island in Mexico covered in decaying dolls. Not cute, cuddly dolls, mind you. We're talking about weathered, mutilated, downright disturbing dolls, staring blankly with cracked porcelain faces and missing limbs. It's like a toy graveyard, and the vibe is undeniably unsettling. The story goes that a recluse named Don Julian Santana Barrera found a drowned girl in the canals surrounding the island. Haunted by her death, he started hanging dolls he found in the trash, believing they would appease her spirit. Over 50 years of this guy collecting these broken, discarded dolls and hanging them up as some sort of weird tribute. I mean, I get wanting to honor the dead, but this is a bit much, right? It's like a horror movie waiting to happen. Now, the island itself is pretty isolated. It's not exactly a tourist hotspot, which adds to the creep factor. You have to take a boat to get there, through murky canals, and the whole journey just screams, "Turn back now." The air is heavy, the silence is broken only by the rustling of leaves and maybe the creaking of a doll's head turning. Probably just the wind, but who knows? I mean, imagine being out there at night, surrounded by these lifeless, staring eyes. No thanks. I'd rather take my chances with a real ghost than be stuck on this island with these creepy plastic things. All right, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're heading to Moundsville Penitentiary. This isn't your average haunted house. We're talking about a former prison, a place where real-life horrors took place. We're talking about almost a century of confinement, violence, and despair. So, yeah, it's got some baggage. I mean, if ghosts are real, wouldn't a place like this be a prime location for them? Think about it. Years of suffering, anger, and regret trapped within these walls. That's a potent cocktail for paranormal activity. Moundsville was known for its brutal conditions. Overcrowding, violence, and even executions were commonplace. The inmates lived in cramped, unsanitary cells, and the guards were often just as cruel as the criminals they were watching over. So, yeah, not exactly a happy place. It's the kind of place that leaves a stain, you know, a residue of negativity that lingers long after the last inmate has left. Imagine walking those halls, knowing the history, the suffering that took place there. It's enough to make your skin crawl. The stories coming out of Moundsville are chilling. Reports of shadowy figures, disembodied voices, and unexplained noises are common. Some people claim to have seen the ghosts of former inmates, while others say they've been touched or even pushed by unseen forces. I mean, if I were a ghost, I'd probably haunt a place like this too, just to mess with the tourists. And let's not forget the infamous North Hall. This was the most violent section of the prison, and it's said to be the most haunted. Visitors have reported feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and oppression in this area. Some have even claimed to have seen apparitions of former inmates and guards, reliving the horrors of the past. So, yeah, not exactly a place I'd want to spend the night. All right, folks, let's talk about the Bell Witch. This isn't your Casper-friendly ghost story. We're talking about a malevolent entity that terrorized a family for years. We're talking physical attacks, psychological torment, the whole 9 yards. This thing was not messing around. It's one of the most documented cases of a haunting in American history, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart. The story takes place in Adams, Tennessee, in the early 1800s. The Bell family, led by patriarch John Bell, began experiencing strange phenomena on their farm. Weird noises, objects moving on their own, the usual spooky stuff. But things quickly escalated. The entity, which they dubbed the Bell Witch, began targeting John Bell specifically, slapping, pinching, and even sticking pins into him. I mean, that's not just spooky, that's assault. The Bell Witch was a real piece of work. It wasn't just content with physical attacks. This thing also messed with the family psychologically. It would mock them, reveal their secrets, and even predict the future. It was like having a live-in bully with supernatural powers. And the worst part, no one could figure out how to stop it. The haunting went on for years, driving the Bell family to the brink of madness. Neighbors and even visitors to the farm witnessed the strange occurrences, adding credibility to the story. All right, so picture this: Edinburgh, Scotland, a city known for its stunning architecture, its rich history, and oh yeah, a network of underground vaults that would make even the bravest soul shiver. These aren't your average storage cellars, folks. These are the Edinburgh Vaults, a subterranean labyrinth shrouded in darkness and steeped in centuries of chilling tales. We're talking about a place where the air hangs heavy with the weight of the past, where whispers echo through the stone arches, and where, according to some, the spirits of the forgotten still roam. Buckle up, because this one's going to get spooky. It's damp, it's dark, and it's definitely got that I'm going to see a ghost vibe. Now, these vaults weren't always a hotbed of paranormal activity. Originally built in the 1780s, they served as workshops, storage spaces, and even, rumor has it, illicit taverns. But as time wore on, the conditions in the vaults deteriorated. Dampness seeped through the walls, sanitation became a nightmare, and the vaults eventually became home to the city's poorest and most vulnerable. Think overcrowded tenements, but underground and significantly more depressing. We're talking about a level of squalor that would make even the most hardened ghost hunter reconsider their career choice. Imagine the desperation, the sickness, the sheer hopelessness that permeated those stone walls. Not exactly a recipe for a good night's sleep, is it? Okay, folks, get ready for this one. We're heading to Watton-under-Edge in Gloucestershire, England, to visit a place that's been called the most haunted house in Britain. It's the Ancient Ram Inn. And let me tell you, this place has got it all: pagan burial grounds, alleged demon possessions, ghostly apparitions, you name it. It's basically a paranormal buffet, and we're about to dig in. So grab your ghost hunting gear and your holy water, because this one's going to be a wild ride. The Ancient Ram Inn dates back to the 12th century, and it's been steeped in strange occurrences ever since. Built on the site of a pagan burial ground, it's said to be a focal point for supernatural activity. I mean, building a house on top of ancient graves, that's just asking for trouble, right? It's like saying, hey, spirits, come on in, make yourselves at home. Not the smartest move, in my opinion, but hey, it makes for a great ghost story. All right, buckle up, because we're heading to Japan to explore one of the creepiest abandoned places on Earth, Hashima Island, also known as Gunkanjima or Battleship Island. This place is straight out of a dystopian nightmare. Imagine a concrete jungle rising from the sea, deserted and decaying, haunted by the spirits of its former inhabitants. It's the kind of place that makes your skin crawl just looking at it. From the late 19th to the mid-20th century, Hashima Island was a bustling coal mining community. Thousands of people lived and worked on this tiny island, crammed into towering apartment buildings. It was a self-contained world with schools, hospitals, shops, and even a cinema. But when the coal mines closed in the 1970s, the island was abandoned, left to decay and become a ghostly reminder of its once vibrant past. It's like something out of a post-apocalyptic movie. So we find ourselves at Villa Montagnese, a beautiful, crumbling testament to the idea that rich people also have ghost problems. It's not all caviar and spectral serenades, though. This place is supposedly haunted by the spirit of a young girl, which, classic ghost story stuff. But don't let the little girl ghost trope fool you. This isn't Casper the friendly ghost we're talking about. This is more like Casper the slightly malevolent and possibly misunderstood ghost. Maybe she just wants her doll back. Maybe she wants revenge for some unknown slight. We may never know. The stories surrounding this place are pretty standard haunted house fare. Whispers in empty rooms, cold spots that would make a penguin shiver, and the occasional disembodied giggle that would make even Ryan Bergara nope right out of there. The usual. The kind of stuff that makes you question your sanity and the validity of the laws of physics. I mean, who needs thermodynamics when you have a ghostly girl haunting your Italian villa? It's basically a trade-off. Borley Rectory. Even the name sounds spooky. This place isn't just your average haunted house. It's like a haunted hotel for ghosts. There's a whole cast of characters here. Oh, we've got a nun, a phantom coach and horses, and even a former rector who apparently enjoys a good haunting. It's like a paranormal party and you're not invited. Unless you like being terrified, that is. The most famous resident is the nun, who reportedly wanders the grounds silently searching for something. Or someone. Or maybe she's just lost. I mean, I get lost in grocery stores, so I can only imagine how disorienting it must be to be a ghost wandering a centuries-old rectory. It's probably like a spiritual maze. So there you have it. 10 haunted locations that are best left unexplored. From ghostly girls in Italian villas to phantom carriages in English rectories, we've covered a lot of ground and a lot of ghosts and probably a lot of asbestos. These places are a testament to the enduring power of the unknown, the human fascination with the things that go bump in the night. They're reminders that there are still mysteries in this world, things we can't explain, things that send shivers down our spines. But as intriguing as these stories are, it's important to remember that these places are often dangerous, both physically and, spiritually. You don't want to mess with a vengeful spirit or a territorial ghost. They can be real jerks. So what have we learned? Haunted places are spooky, ghosts are real probably, and you should probably just stay home and watch more videos. Speaking of which, if you have any spooky stories of your own, be sure to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more unsolved mysteries, ghostly encounters, and general shenanigans. Stay safe out there, folks, and try not to get haunted.